And hello, everyone. Welcome to the WartburG Infusion Entertainment Review. It's time for episode 66. Here, we're going to be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, as well as surprise some thoughts on the WGA strike here on the night of May 7th, the weekend that Guardians has come out, and it's now the number one movie. It beat Mario finally, so we have a new number one movie at the box office. And I believe we've both seen it.
Yep.
So I'm your host, Thomas, aka MrWartburg. Alongside me, as always, is Patrick, aka Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend, or hope you're having a good week/weekend, wherever you may be listening to this podcast.
Very true. So we're both going to give our thoughts. The main meat of this podcast is going to be Volume 3. You can barely hear Fusion. Hang on, let me bring him up.
Yeah, because I'm juiced to where I'm normally at on my mixer, so maybe your settings.
Yeah, you're getting right into the yellow.
How about now, Chris? How do I sound? 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
We are live. If you are listening on a recorded version, we're over at twitch.tv/MrWartburg, where you can follow us and be in the chat live and give us technical feedback as we record, because that's very helpful. Thank you, Chris.
I mean, it's better to do it at the beginning than hearing an hour-long plus episode of me sounding like I'm in the mud, right?
Very true. Very true. All right, so
You got to point this out because we didn't give our full review of it.
oh, I gotta
It
move here.
did dethrone Super Mario, which is now $1 billion movie. A billion
Yeah,
dollar.
this will definitely get there as well. So,
Yeah.
all right. So before we get into that, our watching and playing. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded. So Fusion, what have you been up to?
Doing a whole lot of nothing in terms of watching. Just been real casual. Watching a few streamers. That's been about it. There's a new show on Amazon called Citadel with what's his name, Richard Madsen, and I forget her name. She was in the FBI TV show. Anyway, really good start to that show. Plus Stanley Tucci's in it. He's fucking fantastic and everything. So definitely worth a watch. I think the first 3 episodes are out now. Citadel on Amazon Prime. So yeah, good stuff. And then playing a ton of Fortnite, man, on my spirit when I have time. If I'm gonna game, I'm gonna play some Fortnite. So yeah, that's been about it. How about you?
For me, obviously, saw Guardians. Continuing my Farscape rewatch. Playing. I just tonight 100% a Jedi Survivor.
Like literally 10 minutes before you rolled.
Yeah, amazing game. Great experience. Had an absolute blast with it. And I may be doing a new Journey Plus for stream. We'll see what happens with that. I also want to start Silo because the first 3 episodes I think are out now, or maybe the first two. I can't remember. But that's the Rebecca Ferguson kind of post-apocalypse.
Yeah,
Everyone's living in a missile silo. It's based on a book series, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna check that out because it's got pretty good reviews. And then of course, continuing Ted Lasso, which will have a full season wrap up at the end of this month after the Cure for Crohn's, because the plan for that is more or less set, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I do a annual charity stream called the Cure for Crohn's. So year 6 is coming up this May. All right, so let's jump right into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Where are we at on the recording? About 340. Okay.
All right.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Fusion. What were your initial thoughts?
I loved it. James Gunn gets a superhero story. He just gets it, you know? I think Suicide Squad didn't get enough love just because of the first film and it's DC and Warner Brothers, but I liked that film. I thought he did a really good job of making a lot of characters likable. I mean, hell, we got a TV show out of Peacemaker, right? Um, this is a guy that knows comic books, obviously, that reads the source material, that takes a story and creates a script that converts it to live action and does a good job. Now, there are a few things. It wasn't a perfect film, and I'm probably going to say I like this better than Guardians 2, not as much as the first Guardians film. Slightly, Guardians 1 slightly edges this one out, but overall it was a good way to wrap things up. Potentially, let me say that, potentially wrap things up for this iteration of the Guardians. If you've read the comics, you know that this iteration to a degree wasn't really even the first one. And there have been other iterations since then, and there are now, and we may get some form of it. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. Very emotional. Soundtrack kicked fucking ass, and the closure at the end was kind of where I thought it would be, except for I was preparing myself for a lot more. And quick spoiler before we get into deep spoilers, but I figure we were gonna have to let go of a lot more characters in terms of like characters dying for the story, and the end result wasn't where at that point, but yeah, there was a few things I do want to complain about, but overall, if I had to give it a number, for me, I think a number's always good. I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Where Guardians 1 was like a 9.1 or 9.2 out of 10, right? And Guardians 2 was probably like a 7.8,
You're
seven point
crazy
nine out
because
of
I think
10.
Guardians 2 is a significantly better film.
Really? I
Because the
I
third
liked it.
act doesn't actually suck balls. The
Okay.
third act
You
in the
didn't
first movie's bad. It just
I didn't
grinds
have a
to a
problem
halt
with the first one.
and oh hey, Deus Ex Machina, he's not human. Like, oh, okay, and we end.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, not a great third act for me. But for me, this one, too much yelling. So much yelling at all between all the characters. All they do is
Okay.
scream. He's like, that's not is that really good dialogue? Because they're just yelling all the time. Like it got like kind of overwhelming in the theater. Obviously, if you're a very empathetic like person with animals, you may not like this movie because man, there's some
No.
I don't want to say body horror, but it's akin to that with like CGI animals. It's kind of messed up,
Yeah.
and it kind of had to be because the High Evolutionary is a really fucked up character. But yeah, like and even the villain, it devolved into just the villain yelling every single piece of his dialogue. You know,
That was my problem of the high evolutionary devolving into kind of an asshole, like a
and they all do. They
self-centered.
all just everyone's yelling every single line of dialogue for
Okay.
a good act of the movie. And it's like that's not fun for me. And to me, the needle drops were not as good as this Guardians 2. Because, I mean, there's no Fleetwood Mac in this one. So that was using the chain was amazing. Yondu's, there's nothing that beats the highs in this movie of Yondu's death and Yondu's funeral.
Well, hold on. Florence and the Machine's Dog Days Are Gone By have gone by is a really good.
Oh,
It's a
I'm
very
not saying it's bad. I'm just saying
no.
all that together in the third act of Guardians 2, there's nothing in this movie that beats that. Like
The trailer with
there's
the,
no I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, right? Like
oh
that
no no
moment,
no
like
no
it
no.
took over everything because it was so fucking good. There's nothing like that in this movie. I think it's probably closer to Guardians 1. I do think Guardians 2 is the standout of the franchise for me.
Okay. For me, I think my biggest problem was I really and Kurt Russell's not a bad actor. I just didn't really like the way they set up Ego. I really didn't like that. The whole I just create a man that goes around dropping his seed everywhere and until I get it all wrong. It's funny because when you talk about the Christmas special, we've established that Mantis and Star and Quill are siblings, right? Right? He's like, I got a sister. Well, technically, you have billions of siblings
Well,
because
they're all dead.
all well that we know of are dead. He didn't say he killed. Did he? He didn't say he killed all of them. He just said that the ones that he felt like weren't up to like where he wanted them to be genetically, he killed them. So it's possible there are other siblings out there, but that's obviously we're not setting him up for that. We're not
No.
setting up for that. My mic drop moment for me was when the evolutionary is fighting once like at the back in the third act fighting with Rocket again, and Rocket just says, when he calls him his numbered name or whatever, he says, "No, I'm Rocket Raccoon." That was pretty fucking cool to me because he's always kind of pushed away the raccoon part of it, right? So
Well, that's because he didn't know what the fuck a raccoon was. You know.
yeah, that's true. That's true. He's had plenty of time to figure that out in the 5 years of between in
Yeah, I
Endgame,
assume on
right?
Earth he figured that out, but like up to that point, really well. Oh, I appreciate the Iowa Cup too. Gotta love it. But dude, yeah, did you see they got a friggin' Ohio State wide receiver?
Yeah,
Did not see that coming.
right.
But yeah, for me, I'd probably give it an 8.
Okay,
Like, I
okay,
enjoyed it. It was fine. It just was not for me as emotionally satisfying as Guardians 2. Like it
okay.
didn't hit me that hard. I think Guardians 2 was significantly funnier because Michael Rooker doesn't have to scream to make jokes, and I think that was just kind of what this movie devolved into. It's just loud for loud's sake, and that to me is
Okay.
Not why I want to go watch a superhero movie.
Let's talk about the future of the story and its place in the MCU then. Do you think it was a good well, let me ask this. Since Endgame, a lot of people have said this is the best film since Endgame. Do you agree or
No,
disagree
no,
with that?
No Way Home's the
I mean,
best.
No Way Home is the best
No
in
Way
my
Home, it's not even a contest. No Way Home is the significantly best MCU movie post Endgame,
I mean, the emotion in that one was deeper from
right?
start to finish,
Yeah,
right?
like when Peter, like when Doctor Strange and him, the decision at the end,
Yeah, and
that
you can see
fucking
Doctor
hits you.
Strange tearing up, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that shit hurt. In this movie, that really wasn't a thing for me.
My thought is, I think that we're gonna find out probably in the next Avengers film that Doctor Strange's spell, he specifically puts something in there to where he remembers, but he's leaving it as is until he needs to. Which like what's gonna happen? Which one's the first one? Is it Kang Dynasty? That's the first Avengers film that's
Well,
coming back.
assuming that all still happens.
Yeah, that's gonna be very problematic here, man, because we've got a lot of shit to talk about with that. But that's the first in the Avengers slate, right? Is Kang
Hmm.
Dynasty. So obviously we're gonna get Spider-Man in that. Obviously in Doctor Strange, we're gonna find out that he's known this whole time he's Peter Parker, and he never forgot. He just didn't want to create a problem because of Peter's struggles of people that know always have to suffer or whatever. Anyway, um, it's a good film for me, man, and maybe it's because I'm in a different place emotionally right now with a lot that's going on in my personal life, and it, like you said, the animal portion of it really hit hard. But I loved the soundtrack, and that's probably because I was a kid in the '90s, and there were some really good bangers from the '90s. Like I love Space Hogs in the meantime. I fucking love that song. And then we care. Is it we care? I always forget the name of it. We care a lot. That Faith No More song.
I'd have to
This
go through
we
the
care a lot.
track list.
Anyway, there were some good songs in there, man. And then you closed it out with, not closed, yeah, close it out of the before the credits. You close it out with Florence and the Machines. Oh, that's just god damn.
I was
But
hoping they'd bring it back to the credits song would have been Blue Suede.
okay,
But because that was just like the trailer song, and it was like the holy shit, this movie's gonna be crazy Guardians 1 song. But I appreciated what they did go with.
in the end credits, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
Okay,
that would have fit.
well, I mean, I think it was a tough situation because one, James Gunn had got fired and then brought back, and that basically the entire cast said they would not do another film if it wasn't James Gunn, a third film without James Gunn. Then you know, I think guess towards post production is when he gets the deal with DC and Warner Brothers, right? So, and he's still working on wrapping up this film. I think there was a lot there, and maybe it doesn't feel like it was a rushed film, but maybe there was on his part some emotionally he rushed things out emotionally because he didn't want to, he just didn't see himself move. I don't see him doing anything in the future with them, especially with Warner Brothers DC, that where he can do a lot more rated R content. That seems to be a lot more in his sense of humor because the dialogue was a little edgier to me in this film than the first two.
Well, they actually got to drop an F bomb.
Dropped an F bomb, yeah, yeah,
I think that was the first in the MCU
yep,
proper.
yep. Because they've always dropped the horn, like a sound effect to cover up the full word. And this was like all the way through. But
Yeah.
hey, man, at least he kept continuity with Quill being gone for 30 years. Do we want to just jump into the spoilers of
Yeah, we'll
all of
jump
it?
into spoilers. Oh, and I also want to throw in, I thought Adam Warlock was just incredibly underutilized.
I didn't like the fact that they really dumbed him down.
Yeah, like they made him this like stupid, insolent child, which is like, well, you could have, especially with where they go with his mother.
Yeah.
Well, that right there is how he could have teamed up with the Guardians, because he's not stupid enough to realize, oh yeah, the High Evolutionary just killed my mom, so fuck him, he's gonna die, right? Like, and that didn't happen. He's still trying to kill the Guardians after that.
Yeah.
Like, really? There's nothing with him emotionally other than, oh, everybody deserves a second chance at the end. That was very underwhelming for me. And
Okay.
again, that character's kind of hard to do because the character's very Deus Ex Machina, only use him in the big stories kind of character
Yep.
because of his lore. Like, he resets and he doesn't want to go evil, so he has to get killed all the time. But still, just using him in the movie for as little he was, it's like, man, would have liked something more of him as an actual character. So, That to me
Okay.
just kind of contributes to my overall thoughts on the movie. I was a little underwhelmed.
Okay. All right. All right. Like I said, maybe it has to do with a lot more of my emotions currently that has me feel like I enjoyed it a little bit more. Um, I do like that we've set up that Star-Lord is coming back.
Hmm.
Like we've confirmed that. Here's the cool thing is that obviously Dave Bautista and Zoe Saldana have stated that they're done. And I get Zoe and I get both of their reasons. Dave's 55, gonna about to be 55 years old. He's like, I'm not gonna look the part anymore, you know, and it takes hours to get that makeup on. Same thing with Zoe Saldana, but she's also made a fortune for Disney and she's made a fortune through
Yeah, she
Avatar.
has and Star Trek.
She is the highest. Her and Scarlett Johansson are the two highest grossing lead actors in films right now.
Yeah,
Because if you count all of the MCU movies that Scarlett Johansson's in, it's billions of dollars. But Zoe Saldana alone is like fucking four and a half,
yeah.
$5 billion at
She's
this
been in
point.
some massive franchises.
And they have what, three more Avatar films coming? Three
Yeah.
more, I think. Okay, so and you think about it, the first two Avatar films have made what, 4 billion combined, or four
Hmm.
and a half billion combined. So she's gonna, her films are gonna make at least another two, three, four, 6 billion. She's gonna be about $10 billion. So I'm sure she's probably like, I don't want this to ruin my life, and I can see her not wanting to get into a contract, and this leads to that whole discussion with the writer strike, the Writers Guild. But I think you're going to see a lot of that. Dave Bautista's old, he getting older, and I think he wants to do some more serious roles. I
I
think
have a not quite fan casting, but Gunn has said some of the MCU cast, this Guardians cast, is going to be in his Superman movie, and I'm like, oh shit,
sure.
Dave
Bizarro.
Batista at Bruno Mannheim,
Okay, okay.
because
I
he wouldn't have to be huge.
Yep.
He can play a bad guy. He
I
can
was
play
gonna say
that kind of.
I was gonna say bring in Solomon
Could
Grundy.
see that, but if he's thinking specifically Superman villains,
Superman, yeah.
that I
Okay.
was thinking as a back as a secondary, like an iteration of Metallo.
Okay.
Where it's like an ex-soldier that
Mhm.
Luther is experimenting on and everything with kryptonite. Not
And
impossible.
he loves working with James Gunn. Like he has
Exactly.
stated that. But did he say that they would be in Superman or just
He
the phase
said,
one of
I
DC
think
movie?
the thing was the Superman movie, but
Okay.
that's not necessarily what it. The interview could have been misconstruing it. So
Okay. But here's the cool thing. Obviously, the whole thing with Groot, the "I love you guys" thing that we all understand. I kind of figured that's where James Gunn was going with that. That it was that we as the audience finally understand how to speak
yeah,
Groot.
because they
Not
didn't
that
freak out. Nobody was
no, they
like,
didn't
"Oh, you
freaking
speak English the whole time." Like, no,
yeah.
they just hear him say, "I am Groot," and know what he's
I
saying.
yeah, exactly. So it's like we're in on the joke now. Okay, I figured when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I get that, and then confirmed a couple days ago. But obviously, Vin Diesel could continue to voice Groot. Bradley Cooper can continue to voice Rocket, which is, he's a character since the mid to 2010s that jumped in a lot of the Marvel properties, over the last 10 years.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, Chris Pratt has stated he's not ready to hang up on Star-Lord, but he couldn't envision himself not working with James Gunn unless, hey, if the Russo brothers come back or another really good up and coming director does a good movie, he's obviously contracted. He doesn't want to state it. He's obviously contracted for the next Avengers film. He's got to be a part of that, right?
Well, and I also think now that he's on Earth,
Yep.
having him as a background character in one or two movies, like the guy would be an international celebrity
Yep.
because he's a child who was kidnapped in the '80s by fucking aliens,
Yep.
right? Like the first human to ever like live in space, like on a different planet. Like him coming back and like he'd be on. Like I'm imagining Fantastic Four movie. He's just in the background, like on a late night talk show, because that would the kind of thing that someone like that
Or
would do.
well, they've announced that that the Fantastic Four isn't going to be a reboot. Like we're not going to get a complete reboot. It's going to be they exist all of a sudden in this universe. They're going to figure a way
Exactly.
to do it, right? So maybe Reed Richards is like interviewing him, like they want to research it, like put like they're tempted to get to, like an understanding of his brain because maybe like his biochemistry is adjusted for living in space for 30 years, eating alien food. Like I can picture Reed like being fascinated by him and
Yeah.
him being kind of like, "You guys just leave me alone?" Like,
Yeah. I want to go finish Star Wars. Like
yeah, like there's
because
like all these Star
because
Wars movies that
he
get
would have gotten kidnapped before Return of the Jedi, right?
no. Return of the Jedi is 83.
What year did he get kidnapped? I thought it was early 80s. Was it
No, it was
85?
in the 90s. No, it was in the 90s
No,
he got kidnapped.
it's in the
Yes, because
90s.
he states in the movie he's been on the run for 31 years. He's only about 40. Yeah. It's 90, it was 90 or 91. Yes.
Hmm.
Now I'm gonna have to look this up, man. When was Star-Lord kidnapped? Oh, 1988. There you go.
I thought it was
1988.
the 80s.
Okay.
Thank you.
But Return of the Jedi is already out. That was 83. So he miss the he missed no, he mentioned the holiday special, didn't he? At one point?
Maybe he might have.
Because could have sworn he mentioned the Star Wars holiday special. But he's got a ton of Disney shows that he can bring up that he's missed.
Yeah, stick
Boba
with Disney
Fett,
stuff. Yeah, he's been watching The
Obi-Wan.
Mandalorian.
But
Yeah,
obviously he's got to mention the prequels, you know. So
yeah. He's like, maybe not the best things I've ever watched, but
yeah.
yeah,
So like there's ways to make him kind of a meta character, but also I do agree he's got to pop up from time to time because he's like you said, he's on Earth, he needs to be utilized in some way, shape, or form. So but Pratt says he's not ready to hang it up. It just depends on what the role is. But I can see Bradley Cooper playing Rocket because they can just do Rocket all over the place if
yeah,
they really want. And he's obviously going to be in um, Battle Worlds.
yeah. Do you think they're gonna recast any of the roles?
I don't. The only one I could probably think they would try to do would be Drax. Honestly, that's the only one I could see if they really wanted Drax. But it's easy to move on from Drax. You don't have to. Drax was a good character, but Drax wasn't like the anchor of this trilogy.
When
In
they
the second
absolutely
film,
could have made him one, because like
they
his
could have.
backstory's
Yeah,
fucked up
yeah. No. His backstory is incredible, and they touched on it in the second film, but then they kind of just moved away from it.
until the very
From
end of the
more.
third, which is like, oh
Oh, the
no,
third film,
like
yeah,
he was a dad, like he had a
yeah,
kid, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
he did a
then
lot of he did a lot of murdering for Thanos, and then
well,
to
no,
get
in
to
the
Thanos.
universe to get to Thanos,
Oh
never
no,
worked
no,
for
I
Thanos.
meant in the I meant in the
Yeah,
comics. In
yeah.
the comics.
So yeah, it was
But
a
yeah, but you could have more Groot and Rocket. You could even I don't be shocked if we start hearing rumors of a Rocket and Groot TV series, a Disney Plus series.
yeah, I could see that.
That would be kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, just do kind of a cheaper continuing Guardians story.
Yeah, I mean you could always change things up. I mean, now we have Quasar in the group as well as Adam Warlock, and yeah, I didn't really like the iteration of Adam Warlock, but at the same time, I was never an Adam Warlock fan. Like you said, he was always a Deus Ex Machina for the big cosmic stories. He just was able to show up, and he was almost to the degree of what Brie Larson's Captain Marvel was in Endgame, kind of the same thing. But he's like that in a lot of the comics.
Yeah,
Whenever a nihilist is tearing shit up, let's get Adam Warlock to come in and help out. It's just I was never a big fan of that. So,
yeah, because they don't really, other than the angle of I will go crazy if I live long enough, so someone has to kill me so I can be reborn.
yeah,
There's not a whole lot to the character that I remember at least.
yeah.
Like someone says, like, yeah, he's kind of like Superman in the sense, like, no, Superman's an actual character. Got a life, has a civilian identity, and
But
yeah,
he's mortal.
yeah, it is mortal. Like, and he's well, at least mostly mortal. But like, there are some versions where Superman like lives for how many thousands of years, you know.
That's true. That's
But
true.
it depends on which canon you're going by and everything. But by and large, he does age just incredibly slowly, and he just tries to live a human life, which is a different way to go about a character that powerful than what Marvel does with some of their really high level characters. So, but yeah, I was just curious that he ended up in the Guardians. That whole new group. I don't know. I don't think we'll see them as a group on film. I
No,
just don't see Marvel being like, yeah, Sean Gunn, you're going to be in Guardians now.
no.
I just don't see that happening without James Gunn directing the movie. If they do anything with the Guardians IP as a standalone going forward. I think, like to your point, we're probably going to see the individual characters, probably Rocket and Groot and Quill on Earth. I could see them recasting Gamora if she like breaks away from the Ravagers and how all that's going to play out. But I don't know if
Yeah.
they do because Saldana's done with the role. You know, that'll be an interesting thing to follow. And obviously, I think Nebula's mostly done too.
Yeah, I think that one. I think they were. I think that was kind of like we're retiring Nebula's character. She's come full circle. The one that'll be interesting is Mantis's character because she could be out there and also being a child of a celestial like Quill. I can see her showing up with Eros or the Eternals at some point.
True. Yeah, I could see that interaction. That's if they do
So
anything with them.
I
That
mean,
that didn't do well.
yeah, man, it's yeah. The thing is that I think Marvel's quietly kind of just taking a step back because we haven't heard a lot about Blade recently, right?
Well,
And
they're
I
not
think
going to because the production shut down.
well before that, but I'm talking about before the
Yeah,
writer's
they had
strike.
some
I'm talking
serious production issues.
they had some major issues and it just got really quiet because Cat Harrington was going to play a big role in the movie, and now they announced that they're not moving forward with him in the MCU. So yeah, there's a lot to think about here, man. Especially with if Adam Driver is cast as Mr. Fantastic and there is a writer's strike going on, how long they're all going to sit and wait?
Mm-hmm. So
I
yeah, speaking
mean,
of the writer's strike, obviously a big thing that's going to move the needle today
yeah,
was oh, did they give that interview yesterday? Or was it today?
I think it was
Time is
yesterday.
blurry when you're not working for surgery.
Yeah,
So
I think it was yes. I think it was yesterday.
the Duffer Brothers came out and said, "No, we're not going to work on Stranger Things. Are you crazy? There's a strike
Yeah,
on. Writing doesn't stop just because you roll camera." And they're right. So they're one of the few big names that have actually done that. Some of the others are Andor, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, all shooting their second seasons, even though they can't do any rewrites because of the strike,
yep,
which to me is crazy. Especially Andor, because it's like, number one, your entire thing is, fighting against fascist overlord dicks, and you're going to dick over your writers. And also probably your product, because it's not going to be as good. Just to, what, fuck over the writers to make more money?
yeah.
To me, that seems crazy. And, also, Rings of Power, but nobody was expecting that to be good in its second season anyway. But House of the Dragon as well is a show that had a really strong first season and was really, really written well as an adaptation of George R. R. Martin's material. And now they're just kind of flying blind. You can't rewrite. And that never goes well because you're going to need rewrites. You're going to need reshoots. You're going to need to redo scenes because they don't work. And to go into a production of that's that expensive. How many million per episode was each of those? I mean, it was north of 10, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 14 million is what they estimated the budget at
Yeah.
per episode.
And
Yeah,
for each of them, it's a 10 million plus per episode
yeah.
show.
Because their budget for the last season was 8 million per episode because they fought for that.
Yeah.
And in the final few episodes it was 10 million. But when they told them they wanted to do more Game of Thrones, they're like, we want a true big budget then. And they gave
Yeah.
them 14.
And to go into something that's that expensive to create
Yeah.
without being able to course correct on your writing is fucking wild. I think that's just stupid, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the Duffer Brothers in their interview, they stated something that several directors have stated over the past couple of days is that what people don't realize is, yeah, just because you begin production, there are rewrites that happen up to the moment you begin shooting a scene,
And even
and so
sometimes while you're shooting the scene.
yeah, and so those have to count on their union structure. If depending on who's involved, like what's being written and who's writing it, which is usually your writing crew and your showrunners, and all the directors. Once they put pen to paper to make a official change to the script, then boom, it has to go through an approval process. And the WGA is like, no, we none of that stuff. So everything has to be put on hold, man. Like this final season for Stranger Things, I mean, it was already going to be about a year and a half out plus from the last season. It's probably going to be 2 to 2.5 years
At this point, yeah.
at this point because they were like meticulously creating this grand opus of episodes with a bunch of different endings and like a lot of this stuff, and it's going to all it's all coming to a halt. You know what? You bring up something that there are some shows that are now in the can thing for you, like Strange New World season 2. Thank God we're gonna get that, right? Because we're
Yeah.
not we were this close to not getting that.
Because they shot that
Loki
like damn
season
near
2.
immediately as soon as season 1 was airing. They were already
Yep.
shooting it. So this was last year. They've been wrapped up
And
for almost a year.
and they just got wrapped up on reshoots for Loki recently.
Hmm.
So that's done. Okay, okay, fine. Um, but there's a lot of stuff like it's not just Marvel. There's a lot of stuff that we're gonna Reacher season two's in the can and it's gonna come out here.
The Boys is
Thank
in the
God.
can too.
The the boys is in the can. So it's not going to be dry, but man, if the last strike lasted what, 4 months? This
Yeah, I
one's
think it
gonna
was
be
just under 4.
just under 4. There's the feeling is this one's probably more than likely going to be longer just because of the ramifications of streaming. Like
And the
there's
AI
the
stuff. Like the stakes are much higher.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing we need to talk about because we're starting to, we've seen a few reports that apparently studios are squeezing in AI deals, like
Hmm.
character rights in contracts now. And yeah, we've talked about this several times before, like when Bruce Willis retired from acting and his estate had signed that AI deal or structured out an AI deal for him and properties going forward. We talked about James Earl Jones, his voice as Vader, and how AI was helping that out. It's going to be very major, man. I mean, it's going to be a big deal, and I don't think people understand that because we're talking about not just the web platforms, but we're talking about, especially with what we're seeing socially and from a workforce standpoint, what's going on with AI, here in the U.S. and what they predict going forward with the workforce. It's going to create a lot of questions on how we should structure these deals. Should we structure deals to allow for AI, or should they be completely separate deals?
Well, and to get it
Yeah.
for the specific writers thing, their whole thing was that I believe their pitch or their not demand, I guess demand's the right word, was that they didn't want any AI generated scripts, like at all. Like the whole thing is it needs to be original human creation.
Yeah.
And the counter offer from the studios, which was fucking laughable, was no, we'll just have an annual meeting about it.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, are you kidding? Which tells you they probably do think they can just, yeah, fuck it, we'll just AI content generate the whole thing. And we'll just shoot them without the writers union.
I mean, as soon as the strike was fully announced last week, the first thing I said was get ready because the studios are going to push
Oh,
forward
they're
with
gonna try.
AI
You gonna tell me Netflix
scripts.
isn't gonna try to
Yeah.
script out some cheap ass series
Yep.
to fill their content? They're gonna do it.
Yep. Get ready for the revival of Sledgehammer, written and directed by AI.
Yeah, like it's gonna be. That's the thing is the longer this goes on, the more the pipeline gets dried up because, like you said, a number of series were done. A lot of high
Yep.
profile stuff is ready to go, and I do think some of the studios saw this writing on the wall. I want to say back earlier in the spring when Disney was delaying all the Marvel stuff, I noticed I was like, with the writer's strike probably likely, I think they know that too.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to broaden out and make sure they've covered their own ass so that while the strike is going on, they can drop out Loki and then wait until late fall before we get any news really on what their next stuff's going to be. Because what's the next show from them? That was in the plan, at least. There's Loki season 2.
Loki season 2.
There's obviously Daredevil Born Again, but that was always supposed to be next year. I think was
Next
it
year.
Echo?
Echo was the one that we were wondering because it was supposed to come out. Remember, it was supposed to be out kind of early 2023, and then it got pushed back to the summer, and then we were told fall, but we have not heard anything since then about what's going on with Echo.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
But Charlie Cox was in that, and I don't even know if they completed shooting on that. I never heard anything about like what the status was with Echo.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just gonna scrap it out completely and just go forward with Daredevil because they're in production. They're shooting it right now.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to finish it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Ugh. And that one's a very complicated one because they're doing a bunch of time jumps back and forth from the blip, before the blip, and all and current time, and like that they can't just piece together a show based off of what they have now. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
Um, we obviously have the Marvels, which is coming out next, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
that's their
next.
next movie. When is the release date for Marvels? Did they
Uh,
move that to the fall?
I think it's the fall.
Because they don't have a July release, do they, for the movies?
Yeah, Marvels is November.
Yeah,
No. Summer's Loki 2.
yeah, they moved that back, and that's what to back to my point about them knowing that this was probably likely because they knew they
Yeah.
weren't going to budge. They wanted to
Uh,
broaden out
Secret.
their
The one we're forgetting is Secret Invasions in June.
yeah, Secret
That's the one in
Invasion.
June.
That's the one.
That's the one in June.
They had two shows.
But so technically, Across the Spider Verse is somewhat in the MCU because it is technically
Well,
a
that's been
multiverse.
done though for a while.
Yeah, but that's been done. That's in June, and then early June, and then late June is Secret Invasion. Craven is supposed to be out in October. Marvel's in November. Loki just they never really gave us a true date. They just
I'm
said,
thinking Labor Day ish.
and then What If? Apparently, What If was done, but we don't know what any status on that. Echoes of the other one, like I said, they don't have anything on that. X-Men 97, there's supposed to be a late 2023 for X-Men 97.
I
Ironheart,
imagine that's going to get pushed.
Ironheart, I never heard they started production on that, so that's getting pushed. Agatha has been filmed, so maybe the end of the year.
Possibly.
So that's really, and then the Madam Web movie, which that's
And like for other IPs, this is going to push back pre-production of things. Like obviously we mentioned Blade, but like Superman can't really go into any kind of production while the strike's
Fantastic
going
Four
on.
was supposed to start filming in February. That's obviously going to get
If Paramount was going to greenlight Star Trek Legacy, that can't begin pre-production because nobody can write it right now as part of the WGA. And I believe Metalis probably is because I know he wrote a bunch of stuff for 12 Monkeys and Picard. So I imagine they can't do any pre-production on that, and they're going to want Metalis to run it because 3 was so successful. So
it would Legacy be? Was that supposed to be a Paramount Plus show?
that would be my guess.
Okay.
So Paramount, a lot of their series, they're not going to be into the pre-production. And there's one that's probably a little more precarious of a position because they don't have many new shows all the time.
No.
So once their pipeline is probably thinner than most, and is going to run out first. So I wonder. I believe back in the 07 strike, they were starting to maybe potentially make individual deals with production houses for the union side. I wonder if we'd see something like that happen where each individual makes a decision. Each kind of production house kind of makes their own deal outside of the AMTP.
Yep.
That's an acronym. I'm a little obviously neither of us are writers or producers or director. We're not in the industry. But it is interesting to watch from the outside because I remember 07 how it just completely fucked everything. And obviously we're not on a network model anymore, so the immediate impact isn't as prevalent as 2007. Cuz I remember that that strike, I think Supernatural and Chuck were what I was watching mostly weekly. Those two they had like 2 or 3 episodes and then boom, season was done. It was damn near immediate.
That's 24 obviously got affected by that.
That's not going to happen again because we don't really do the network model right now anymore. Obviously, there's still the big 3. There's your ABCs, your CBSs, your Fox, your NBCs. They have network shows, but by and large, the conversation around this topic is about the streaming. Yeah, because that's where the model has gone.
Most people don't understand how it works. They usually break up this with shows on network television. They go 20 to 20 plus episodes. They like that because of advertisement, right? They usually split it up with like a month-long break between like the winter into the springtime, right? So that's where a lot of those shows in 07 into 08 were affected because that was the break time for a lot of them, but it pushed production schedules. So like a lot of shows were being rushed. Like Breaking Bad was one of those that was affected by it in 08. But they ended up they ended up doing a shorter season 1. They truncated a few episodes off of it because of their schedule. They had to get it done within when they came back, but they ended up just shaving off some episodes. So, and then 24 lost some production time off of theirs as well. But yeah, the AMPTP is just one. People don't know there's a bunch of guilds, union groups in Hollywood, a bunch of them. It's not just a couple that you hear. There's several other ones, and making sure they're all on the same page it's a challenge, man, especially when you're talking about taking legacy from old network television to cable, including theater, and now you're talking about streaming and how rights are done. The only cool thing about this I'm trying. If you want to take a positive spin, man, as if this goes on longer than 3 or 4 months, we're gonna be running out of new content. These streaming networks are probably gonna start pushing back up their catalogs. Remember, we talked months back how they were pulling a lot of their back catalog for bandwidth. They may just be putting a lot of that back on
How much
to
you
kind
want
of
to bet
appeal.
HBO's like, fuck, maybe we shouldn't have outright written off Batgirl. Like,
Batgirl,
you know,
yeah,
stuff like that where they made some really
yeah,
boneheaded decisions for taxes. And I'm like,
yeah,
man, if the writers really want to stick it to them and if they're ready to do so, which I would hope they are, given
yeah.
how universally they authorized that strike. It was what was it, 98%,
Yep.
something like that. It was crazy. So like, I would
Well, they're
hope they're
scared.
prepared,
They're scared of what can happen with AI
and they should be
in
because they
in script
clearly the
writing.
studios don't give a shit.
I mean, we could to potentially have Gotham. I don't know if you ever read that Batman AI script on Twitter that
Oh
guy
yeah,
made, but the Gotham thing fucking kills me every time I see
yeah,
that
like
script pop up.
it's good. They're gonna try.
Yeah,
At least one, probably more than one, are going to try to do an AI scripted series. They're probably
yep,
gonna try to hire some cheap scab writers to fix it, and it's probably gonna suck.
yeah.
And that's if, of course, if any of the actors actually want to be on it. You know, if anybody that's in SAG wants to be on that, like, is able to be on that show. Like, do they have anything in their union deals with AI generated content?
I don't think so.
You know, like that would be another thing because obviously in some cases many of those actors are standing with the writers and saying no, we're not going to be a part of
Yeah.
anything they're not
Oh yeah.
on.
Oh yeah.
So and that's on a more of a production by production basis. But yeah, the whole thing it's going to get messier and messier as time goes on.
So how does this work? You may know this more than I do, even though I worked on films, but I worked on major motion pictures for my time in the industry. These indie films, are they allowed to circumvent these unions?
I don't know. I guess it would kind of depend on where they're shooting.
Okay.
You know, like
Yeah.
because obviously one of the reasons CW shoots in Vancouver, so
Yep.
they're not. They have different rules and regulations according to their own, you know, national like because it's in Canada thing. So, because
Well,
was
that's
it
why
Rust? Rust wasn't a union shoot, right?
no, it was an
Right?
independent film,
Yeah,
and they technically, like it was stated, they broke a lot of union rules
yeah. Like if it,
constantly
yeah, like if it had
before
been a
the
union shoot, people would have probably
yeah.
lost membership,
Yep,
right?
it would have been
Like,
shut down, like, early on in the
yeah,
process because, gaffers, like, crew were complaining about how this was a dangerous production, it was substandard, everything from,
and
like,
that's
the
what I mean. Like
get-go.
they're gonna do non-union shoots,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're gonna be able to pull high-profile talent. Not only because of the strike, but also because in very recent history, people have seen what happens on a non-union shoot because of
Here's
Rust.
m Now talking this through, I am a little worried because we have this space that you and I are a part of, that we're friends with a lot of these people. I don't know if you're starting to think about this too, but what if the studios are dumb enough to go and start reaching out to popular content creators to
Oh,
help them build productions? That would be the dumbest thing they could do, but I could see them doing that.
oh yeah. I mean, obviously, there's one we both know of that has done movies,
Yes.
two specifically, but they're seen in that space as kind of a joke by actual professionals.
Well, but they're a part of a major production
Exactly,
studio,
and
so
they're owned by WB.
they're owned by WB, so they yeah, but they well, but most of the people, like most of the important people in that studio are a part of guilds.
Yeah,
Like,
because I want to say like
yeah,
Blizzes and a few others that I follow are like they actually do have union cards and stuff.
yeah,
So
I mean, Gus and Barbara have union cards. Matt has his director's card. Yeah,
you know,
and I think even Bernie has his writer's card too. I think I could have sworn he mentioned getting his at one point too.
yeah,
So, like, I mean, like, so they're a part of those unions. So I can see that being a problem. But with that said, and because we talk about Rooster Teeth a little kind of in jest, but we've been a part of that community for a very long time. But there are other groups out there like that could be like, hey, sign me up. I'll write you guys a script. I'll write you guys a script, and then all of a sudden we have a fucking
yeah.
John Peters,
There,
Kevin Smith type
I
of
could see them
situation.
absolutely trying to do that because especially as the
Yeah,
strike drags on, if it drags on longer, studios with those IPs under their belt, those brands under their umbrella, they're gonna try.
yeah,
I just don't think it's gonna succeed, and it's going to come back and blow up in their face. This whole thing is. because they wouldn't have a reasonable discussion based on the writer's reasonable demands. Seriously, read their demands. There's nothing crazy.
No.
It's like, hey, you haven't really kept up pace with contracts since our '07 strike. Okay, so we need to adjust that. Also, there's this whole AI thing. We should probably handle that. And they just said, fuck it, and left the table.
And
It's
now
the,
they're apparently they're offering contracts that have lifetime clauses for AI right now. Right now, after the strike was announced.
yeah,
There have been like I've seen a few Hollywood reporters say, I'm hearing rumblings that that actors are being offered big deals from studios, like big, nice, healthy deals, but they've also saw clauses for lifetime in perpetuity into the universe AI control of their characters. So they're trying to sneak it in right now. So
yeah.
obviously the studios are they're saying that they want to meet the writers halfway, which I call
Clearly they
complete total
don't.
bullshit. They don't.
They don't
So
want. They don't want to give them an inch
no,
because it eats
no.
into their profits. And God forbid David Zaslav can't make the 200 some fucking $1 million a year he does. Right?
I don't,
Like,
but I've never felt bad for the studios because they're the ones willing to pay fucking Tim Burton $20 million in the '90s to direct a Superman movie. You know, they these pay or play deals. That's a Hollywood. Like the studio built those type of deals. The pay or play deals. That's them. Like they have no one else to blame for that. It's kind of like the owners of pro football saying, like, oh, we need more of the share because we have to shoulder the load, but we have so much it costs. It's like, yeah, but without the players, you don't bring in $15
yeah,
billion
you're
a
not
fucking
selling out
year.
your stadiums without a decent
No,
team.
exactly. And I think that's the big thing is that with like you said, if SAG is stepping in to show the Writers Guild support, they're gonna lose a lot of leverage. The
Yeah,
studio
because
will.
the draw for their new, you know, snazzy new AI content is going to take a significant hit if
Yep.
high profile talent isn't on board to both produce it and star in it.
Yep.
Like that's going to be a mess. And I think long term, the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get for them. Because like you said, with the AI deals, they're already stepping in it in the PR.
Yep.
The longer it goes on, and the more loudly the writers beat that drum of, we're not asking for the moon here. Like, and that to their credit, and all the people that I see on Twitter are just very much like it's just not let's just have a conversation and be smart about where we're going as an industry. They can't even do that, the studios. And it's all the writers are really wanting to do here, and they can't give them that. It's bonkers to me. So, anything else to add on this before we jump in?
It's gonna be, what could have. We were talking about how 2022 was a slate of wonderful television shows, productions, and movies, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
good content, and 2023 was shaping up to be great. We both knew that there was this strike that was looming late last year into this year. I think the big thing is, I think we're gonna be okay, but by the end of this year, we're gonna probably be puttering into the finish line of
I mean, I would
2023.
say if we're still talking about this by 4th of July,
Yeah,
shit's gonna get really crazy by Labor Day.
yeah, yeah.
Because that'd be about 2 months out. And
And
then
September Labor Day is when they usually kickstart the fall season of network television. So,
exactly. So
yeah, they'd be behind production because they would start filming kind of in Mayish is when they
yeah, it
usually
depends
start
on the
filming
show.
for.
Like
Yeah,
a bunch of shows wouldn't start until after Comic Con, but like they'd start like right after Comic Con.
yeah, like right.
You know, like I'm talking like your CW kind of stuff. Like I remember watching some. I think it was Jensen Ackles. It was like, yeah, we've got our scripts for the next season. We haven't shot anything yet, but we've got the first episode scripts, and then they would go shoot them the week after Comic Con. Like
Yeah,
that's by the time we get into that kind of turnaround, studios are going to be really up against the wall in terms of what do we do for new shows, for new content.
like we said, AI written scripts, or the other one is, and I'm sure Discovery is ready for this, reality TV up the ass, man, because that's what. If you remember in '08, we got a shit ton of different types of reality
Dude,
shows on
that's when
all the
Celebrity
networks.
Apprentice happened
Yep.
because they didn't have to have writers.
The writer's strike is actually responsible for the Donald Trump presidency.
Well, I
Let's
don't
be
know about
real.
that part.
Uh
It didn't make him a celebrity. He was already a celebrity.
yeah, but
It certainly brought him into a new phase of his
yeah, but
persona.
but shithead America started circling around him through
Yeah,
The Apprentice. So that's where it started, and he became a pop culture celebrity, not just a person of status. He became a pop culture celebrity because of that show.
that's a fair point.
And so, but anyway, outside of that, like we're probably going to get a fuck ton going into 2024 of reality shows, um, independent stuff. Maybe we're gonna see some pretty interesting stuff. But hey, man, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it's gonna get ironed out at some point, probably later in the summertime or maybe into the fall. And 2024 looks a little weird, but through a lot of this weird shit that's gonna be thrown out to us, there may be one or two interesting shows, honestly, that may pop up. But at least we have some stuff that's in the can.
Yeah,
It's just how long is it going to take is the question, and it looks like the writers, like you said, the writers are willing to sit down and negotiate, and the studios are acting in bad faith right now, and that's a big problem. That just shows you where this isn't going to end anytime soon.
yep. So that's probably where we'll leave that conversation.
Yep.
So we're about 50 minutes right now.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
I mean, those are my big things right now, man. I mean, we'll talk about Ted Lasso when the season's over. I, I love playing Fortnite right now, man. That's like I jump in, play a few matches here and there, knock out my daily goals. That's kind of a good stress reliever, given all the personal stuff going on right now. But there hasn't been a whole lot of show content that I really, really need to jump on. Can't
Yep.
wait for Reacher. Excited for Reacher to come. Interested in Secret Invasion, but I'm not dying for it. I think Marvel's got some problems outside of this writer strike. I think you and I have touched on it briefly at the very beginning. There's some problems at Marvel right now. There's
Yeah.
some real problems with Marvel Studios, and like with Blade, with some of the other shows. Hearing Elizabeth Olsen and a few other folks saying that the directors and writers involved, Sam Raimi and company, had never watched WandaVision, so they didn't know anything about where the character was at that point. To a lot of them, like there were apparently like 40 rewrites of the main script leading up to like actual production, like that weren't solidified. It was just hearing that was a mess too. There's some stuff going on over at Marvel, and Feige really needs to get that ship back on track, because I really was a fan, and I'm a big Marvel guy, man. I'm starting to feel the fatigue, and it's because I'm just not really getting consistently the content that I really, really want out of Marvel.
Yeah. That's kind of what we worried about when they announced all those shows. It's like that is a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a lot of speed that you need to operate at, and that does not lead to good products by and large.
No.
Like, and I don't say this as a slight, but like, they kind of CW-fied it in terms of kind of dumbed it down.
Yeah.
Versus like what Star Wars did with Andor, where they were like, no, we want an award for this shit because it's fucking awesome. Like, they went so hard on that show, and that's what worries me about season 2. With this writer strike going into season 2, that completely killed knowing that they were just gonna say fuck it to the strike. That really killed my hope for season 2. But it also, on the flip side, got me very hyped for Stranger Things the next season, because they're actually not going into production because of the strike.
Yeah.
So that gives me more hope that their scripts are going to be better, and the show is going to be tighter than probably what ends up with Andor and House of the Dragon and other shows I like watching. Last thing I want to touch on is some new trailers. So Dune 2 dropped their trailer. Looks amazing. I cannot wait for that movie.
Oh my god.
That movie's going to be fantastic. The trailer was dope. We finally get to see more of Zendaya, which is like, she's not just in the marketing this time. She's going to actually be in the movie. Obviously, we are going to have, if they're doing the straight up adaptation, we're going to get a lot more with Brolin this time. His character pops up quite frequently in that part of the book that they're adapting from, or series that they're adapting from. And the other trailer that completely caught me off guard, and it makes sense given what we know of their production issues for the last movie. Do you know there's another one of those Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie movies that will be out on by Labor Day, or the week after Labor Day?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's called A Haunting in Venice, which is another of her movies, but it's more of a horror mystery.
Okay.
And same Hercule Poirot. It's Kenneth Branagh coming in with the mustache, as that character, into more of a horror mystery. And Michelle Yeoh is one of the main antagonist characters.
Give me more Michelle Yeoh, man. No
right?
problem
I'm
with
like,
that.
oh shit. Did not know that. And then it occurred to me, oh yeah, they shot Death in the Nile in like 2019. And then
Yep.
everything came out with Army Hammer, and so they pushed it, and then the pandemic, and they pushed it again. Like, so it has been some time since they actually were in production for Death on the Nile. So it does make sense timeline wise. This would be about the time a new movie's coming out with that character and production house. So it's going to come out in September. September 15th. It's called A Haunting in Venice.
Hunting in Venice.
And the trailer looked pretty solid. And I like that character. I really like where they've gone with that adaptation of it being more of an ensemble thing with one or two consistent characters between each movie. And I think it really fits Kenneth Branagh's style. I think he's really good in that role.
Kind of like the Knives Out stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's obviously it's more period piece centric.
Obviously,
It's
yeah.
not as comedic, right? It's not trying to be a comedy. It's trying to play more to the murder mystery tropes than what Knives Out is trying to like kind of deconstruct them, while also being a good mystery, which is what makes those movies so good. But I like that we're getting kind of both takes on the genre around the same time from like big, like high product value, like high value, high production value shows and products.
Yeah.
That's really cool to see.
There's a couple things one other thing that we haven't touched on, and we're big fans of it, but it's been really quiet, is we haven't heard much about the Fallout TV show.
No, we have not.
Where are they with that? Is it done? I know there were leaked photos, and I didn't look at them, but leaked photos of what ghouls look like on set. But whenever we see a current photo, that could be from something shot months ago. We don't
Because they were in
necessarily.
production a long time ago,
Yeah,
like 2 years ago.
Well, Goggins got announced like late last or like mid last year, I think it was.
Yeah, I think
I
maybe
think it
because the
was, like,
sets have been
summer.
built for a long time. Because those leaked a long time ago. So
So
they
it
based
makes
it
you
on the
wonder where
Fallout
that
4
is.
aesthetic.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder where that show is, and that's kind of in the pipe for Amazon. Like you said, The Boys is there as well. Invincible was supposed to come out at the beginning of 2024. That's probably going to get pushed,
Most likely.
obviously. But like you said about the Dune trailer, loved it, man. Denis Villeneuve is amazing, and what I liked about it was seeing Rebecca Ferguson having more of like, kind of, they're teasing us with more of her in the Bene Gesserit role, and I'm very curious on where they go with that. This is what going to be like a 3.5 hour long
Most
movie.
likely a 3 hour movie at least.
Are they going to really finish this saga in 2
No,
movies,
they're
man?
not. He has said they want to do the Dune Messiah as a separate
Yes,
movie.
yes, give me that.
This is going to take up to the end before Dune Messiah.
Okay, this is much better than David Fincher's horrible take on Doom Messiah at the back end of that TV show series. Oh my god, that series was just such cheese,
That's the one with
With Sting, man, Sting.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the show because James McAvoy was in that.
No, I'm not talking about the Sci-Fi Network one.
Oh, okay. You're talking like the Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle, yeah, the David Fincher.
That one, gotcha.
Yes, with Sting.
Yeah, which was so weird.
Yeah.
But
oh my god.
But yeah, that should be a good time. I'm looking forward to this fall for that movie for sure. But yeah, it's gonna be
that one. Thankfully, is gonna be in theater.
Yeah. So. Well, so was first one.
Actually, wait, no. I think this is a dual. Are they dueling this one again?
What do you mean?
Theater and HBO?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Because that one was at the very tail end of both when they were doing both concurrent. They're not going to do that this time.
And they need the box office.
And I wouldn't want to because that looked so good. We have LDX near me. It's where we go see most of our movies. I might take the trip. Like, depends on what the weather's doing by then. If I could get some late golf in and go down to an IMAX screening and get some golf in, hell yeah, that'd be a good weekend.
Nice.
I'm gonna try swinging tomorrow because I just had the surgery. It'll be about 5.5 weeks, so
yeah,
we'll see how the golf swing goes. Because then I'm gonna upgrade my clubs. Getting ready to drop fucking $1,200.
Oh boy.
Not cheap, but it is a set you're probably gonna have 10+ years. So you might as well. It's kind of like buying a nice PC that you're gonna have for a few years. So.
Except for the GPUs nowadays.
True. Joey asked me the other day if I was going to upgrade my PC, and I'm like, if I'm doing the clubs, not a chance. Nope, I'm good. I'll get till 2024 till I look at upgrading my PC. Because the 3070 Ti runs everything perfectly at 1080p.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly not the reason I'm dropping frames in Fortnite. I dropped some frames right now. I drop frames? Do I have something running?
Maybe you have a RAM issue going on, or an SSD. One of your primary SSDs probably like giving you hiccups.
Didn't drop many. Only like
It,
100 some frames.
it's
But
not the GP. It's not the GPU because the
no.
3070 Ti is just it's butter. There's no way.
Yeah. So.
I'm gonna say maybe your RAM or your SSD is probably kind of hiccuping.
Yep. We'll have to see what happens. Well, we're at just about an hour, so we're probably gonna wrap it
Yeah.
up here. So thanks everyone who's been hanging out. If anybody has been in chat, appreciate you guys. Of course, if you're listening or watching on any YouTube or any of our audio platforms, we do live stream the production of this show over at twitch.tv/MrWartburg. We record it live, so we'll have the stream version and the recorded version. I'll edit from there. We'll be back probably 3 weeks from this time, because 2 weekends from now, I'm running the Cure for Crohn's 6. It's the 6th year I've ran the event called Cure for Crohn's. We're going to be giving away a bunch of wood burnings. They're actually here behind me on the screen. Got some stuff from Assassin's Creed, from Legends of Zelda, Persona 5, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think I got a Star Wars piece. Got a whole bunch of stuff to give away. A whole bunch of awesome streamers, like our friend Jen, Lo Zelda, Jackie, Geeky Fried Rice, Chloe, Echo Chloe, Nick Shorts from Rooster Teeth, James Damas, formerly of Rooster Teeth, and of course myself. Those are our 6 streamers. Maybe 7 if our other person can make it, but I'm not going to say who that is if they can't. And we'll be live 9 hours on May 20th, 9 hours on May 21st. So it'll be an 18-hour weekend, raising money for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. I'm pretty excited about it because the last few years we've raised over $3,000, and I'm not banking on that this time because we have less streamers. But if we could do another year over 2,000, I'd be real happy. I mean, I'll be happy with anything because otherwise it's nothing. But it'd be pretty cool to keep that train going, and see where we go for year 7. So thanks everyone for hanging. We're gonna get out of here. Like I said, we'll be back probably the weekend of Memorial Day. We'll see what our schedules look like then, because by then Ted Lasso should be wrapping up, and we may wait to do something until that Wednesday, the 31st of May, for the finale of Ted Lasso.
Sounds good.
All right, for the stream, we're gonna transition over to Fortnite, but for now, we're out of here. See ya.
Peace.